Hello, second grade Smarties, and welcome to lesson 3 of Wit and Wisdom with our module of A Season of Change. So, we're going to start out by talking about our big pizza question, and I want you to say it with me. How does change impact people and nature? So, this whole module, we're taking a bite at a time, a slice at a time to figure out how does change, how does difference affect people and nature. So think about the changes of seasons. How does that affect people and our surroundings? All right, and here's our pizza slice. So get your slice of pizza. And here is our pizza slice question. What changes in weather? Remember, weather is that poem we've been talking about the past couple days. So today we are wanting to figure out what changes in weather. How does it change from the beginning, the middle, to the end? And we talked a little about that yesterday, all right? And we have our pizza slice, and we're going to take a bite of pizza. Everyone take your bite of pizza. Good job. How does weather build my knowledge of change? So knowledge is the stuff that we use in our brains to help us learn. So how does this poem build our knowledge, the stuff that we keep in our brain to help us learn? How does this poem help us understand change? Specifically, changes in weather, changes in season. So, how has this poem helped you to learn more about change? And we are talking today about, okay, so here's another pizza bite question. Take another bite. How can I emphasize key words to make my reading more fluent? All right, so when we read fluently, that means that all of our words go together. We don't talk like a robot. If I'm a fluent reader, I don't talk like a robot. So when I speak, when you talk to me, my words come right after the other. I try my best to not make mistakes. I try to add pauses when they're needed after I complete a thought. And I make sure to speak clearly. I want you to hear and understand everything that I am saying. So, this is a checklist on the screen of things that we need to think about when we are reading a story or if we're reading a poem. So, what do fluent readers do? They try to read without any mistakes. Now, it's okay to make mistakes, right? So, because you are learning to read, sometimes you're going to have to tap out words. But fluent readers, if we're reading like a fluency story, think back to first grade when we would do those time reads. We would try to read all of our words without having to stop or without making mistakes. Fluent readers also pay attention to punctuation. They chunk information into meaningful pieces. So that means just like you're writing, when you put a punctuation mark, that tells me it is the end of a thought. That means that I can move on to what I need to say next. All right. Fluent readers also read at the appropriate speed, not too fast and not too slow. So we try to say our words in a way that people can hear it, but not so slow that we go to sleep, right? So when we are reading a story, we want to read with as little mistakes as possible. We want to take breaks in between our sentences. We want to read kind of at a steady pace, not fast like the hare, but not slow like the turtle, a good rate. And we read words with emotion. So if I'm reading a story and a character is talking in the story and maybe they're sad, am I going to talk like this? Am I going to be super peppy? No, if they're sad in the story, I might talk like this and I might have my face look like I'm sad. But let's say a character is angry in a story. So when I emphasize, that means I put extra emotion into a word. So let's say the character was angry at his mom. Am I going to talk like this? The boy was angry at his mom. No, right? If I am reading those words and I know that that character has a certain emotion, or maybe I'm reading a story that has a certain feeling, I'm going to show that feeling in my reading. All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about this line right here. Do you see my mouse? All right, so I am going to show you what it means to emphasize certain words. So that means I put an extra little loudness, and I might say it a little different than the other words. Umbrella, 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 bumbershoot, barrel of rain. What word did I say that was a little different than the rest? I'll do it again. Umbrella, 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 bumbershoot, barrel of rain. What word sounded a little different from the other words? What word did I make my voice go up? What word did I move my body with a little bit more? Tell me in the Ed puzzle, what word was a little different? So when I emphasize words, that means I put extra emotion, I put extra focus into certain words so they stand out. So let's look at another one. Let's go up here. A spatter, a scatter, a wet cat, a clatter, a splatter, a rumble outside. What word did I emphasize on that one? Which word sounded different when I read that? Tell me in the puzzle. I put more emphasis in rumble, right? I wanted it to sound different because I wanted that word to stick in your head. So when we are reading stories, or if we are reading poems, sometimes we put extra emotion or focus in certain words to make it stand out in our brain. We want it to stick in our brains. So here is what we are going to do. We've heard this poem now 3 times. And I can't hear you read it right now, but I want you to try to read it as best as you can with me. Are you ready? All right, we're going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to put emphasis on certain words that I want you to put emphasis on too. Are you ready? Here we go. Dot, a dot, 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 a dot, dot, spotting the window pane. Spack, a spack, speck, flick, a flack, fleck. Do you hear that emphasis? Freckling the window pane. A spatter, a scatter, a wet cat, a clatter, a splatter, a rumble outside. Put emphasis on rumble. Umbrella, 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 bumbershoot, barrel of rain. Slosh, a galosh, slosh, a galosh, slither and slather, a glide. A puddle, a jump, a puddle, a jump. A puddle, a jump, puddle, splash. A juddle, a pump, a luddle, a dump, a pud, muddle, jump in and slide. All right, kiss your brains. Give yourselves a pat on the back. So when you were reading with me, I want you to think of this checklist. Were you able to read it without mistakes? It's okay to make mistakes. So that's why we read something over and over again, so we can understand it a little better and be able to read without mistakes. Did you pay attention to the periods to end a thought? When we finished a sentence, that means I took a little pause. Did you take a little pause? And this poem is already chunked into meaningful pieces. So that means it was already chunked into those sentences, so we knew when to take a break. We read at a speed that was not too fast and not too slow. And we read words with emotion. So when we read with emotion, that means we put emphasis on words like bumbershoot. We put words on rumble. We put some emphasis on the words up here and at the end. So again, give yourselves a pat on the back. Good job reading that poem with me. Now let's get into our deep dive. All right. Oh, we're not in our deep dive yet. Just kidding. Back it up. Back it up. All right. So here is something that I need you to answer. So be listening very quick. Be listening very closely because you're going to be answering these questions in the Edpuzzle. So when we are talking about building our knowledge, so when we are talking about how this poem builds our knowledge, we want to think about how can we use what we learned about this poem when we're learning new things. So how can we use the word change, and how can we use the words and the meaning from weather to help the stuff in our brain that we help with our learning? So I want you to answer these questions, and I'm going to answer them with you too, because Miss Mason has learned some things and I know more things and I can do more things now that I've read this poem and have talked about change. So here's the first question. What have we learned about change? What have we learned? We've talked about the meaning of the word change. We've talked about how change means to make something different. What's something that we have learned about the word change? How have we used that word? Tell me in the Edpuzzle. What have we learned about change? Maybe you've learned about changes in season. Maybe you've learned about changes in colors of the season. Maybe you've learned that weather can change really quickly, like in our poem. Tell me, what have you learned about change? All right. And then what do we know about the seasons? So, I know that the seasons change with the weather, right? So we know that seasons come with the changes in weather. So what is something that you know a little bit more about seasons that can build your knowledge, that information in your brain? What do you know more about seasons? Tell me in the Edpuzzle. Maybe you know that the leaves change color in the fall. Maybe you know now that it's very rainy during the spring, like in our Paris Street Rainy Day piece of art. Tell me, what do you know about the seasons? Okay, and then what is something new that we can do as readers from these lessons? What did we just practice doing in that poem? In this last page, what did we do to some of the words? What is something that we can do better as readers? What can we add to our words? Tell me something that you can do now better as a reader than you did before. So maybe that's putting emotion. Maybe that's emphasizing certain words. Maybe that's taking pauses after a sentence. Tell me, what is something new that you can do as a reader? And then what do we learn from the pieces of art? So here are our 4 pieces of art. And this one I'm not going to have you answer because you're going to be doing an activity with Seesaw with art. So what is something that we learn from the pieces of art? They all talk about what? They all talk about different seasons, right? So we learn that artists can use color to help put focus on certain subjects. So in this painting, we talked about how the artist used grays and kind of darker colors to show that rainy day. We talked about how this artist used some greens and blues, and they made the characters dress how they would in summer. We saw that in this painting for winter, they used a lot of white to show snow on the ground. And we talked about how in this painting, they used a lot of reds and oranges and yellows to show that change in season. So think about it. What is something that we learn from those pieces of art? All right, now we're in our deep dive. So when we are reading, sometimes we come across words that are super long, and sometimes those words are two smaller words put together to make a new word. So we have 4 words that relate to seasons, and I'm going to read them to you, okay? Window, pane, outside, landscape, rain, storm. So all 4 of those words are 2 words put together to make a new word. So when we're talking about a window pane, so think about the window, and a window pane is your window, the surrounding of your window, and window panes kind of have that ledge. So it's adding emphasis to the meaning of that word. Outside is split into out and side. So when we are out, that means we are not in. And if we are outside, that means it's the opposite of inside. Landscape. So a landscape is those paintings that we have looked at. They're landscapes, especially the fall one. It shows the land and the scape. So a landscape is just a picture or you seeing lots of land in front of you. And a rainstorm, that's a storm that has a lot of rain. So compound words are longer words that are made up of 2 words. The meanings of the smaller words can change if it is a compound word. All right, 2nd grade Smarties, I hope that you are having a great day. Make sure to check out Seesaw. You have 2 activities that you will be doing, and I hope that you keep that growth mindset. Good learners do hard things, and it's okay to make mistakes. Have a wonderful day, and make sure to answer those questions in the Ed puzzle. Bye, guys.